Hi, I'm Laurent Niclot, and I wanted to talk to you about gauging the thickness on a miniature holoform. So this is something that sounds easy, and it's not as easy as you'd think. First of all, miniature holoforms usually are too small for you to fit your fingers in them, so you have to rely on tools or tricks to try to gauge that wall thickness. So I want to talk to you about a couple ways that's been working pretty good for me. The first one is to knock on them either with your finger or a little piece of wood or something that just creates a little pitch. This is a way to gauge the wall thickness on the exact spot that you're hitting. So if you hit on the very top, you want to hear a high pitch. If the pitch is a little lower, sounds a little thicker, it gets thicker. It's a good way to gauge if you have a very thin spot. You can hear that pretty well, but there's no way to really gauge exactly how thick it is. It's just if it's not consistent with the rest of the form. But that's a good way, combined with my favorite way, which is using sound again, blowing into it like this. It sounds fun, it is fun, but when you make your first holoform, you don't really have a good gauge of what pitch you're supposed to hear. But as you get more proficient and as you make several of them, if you make one that's a fairly similar size or fairly similar shape, you can gauge the pitch. For example, I have these two over here that are fairly small but consistent. You hear a higher pitch on this one, which means that this one is probably a little bit thicker. The higher the pitch, the more negative space you have on the inside, meaning the thinner you get. The lower the pitch, the thinner you get. The only thing you don't know is where to remove the material. That's where you can use the little knocking on that holoform to gauge if it is on the top or on the bottom. It is fairly common to have a thicker spot right after the neck on that shoulder area, but it was fairly hard. Some people have a hard time doing the blowing in the holoform or don't understand the gauging between different shapes, and it's just something you have to make a bunch of them of that same size. But so I try to find some ways to create a tool that would fit in these miniature holoform because I couldn't find anything that would fit in those holoform, and this is what we came up with, the little double-ended caliper. It's a fairly common tool, but most of them are just way too big to fit in these forms. So this one is created specifically to fit in these holoform, and then whatever measure you have on one side is going to show on the other side, as long as you have a perpendicular reading across the surface. So there's different shapes to allow you to reach different part of the holoform. This is mostly for the very bottom. As you can tell, way too thick. It's a in-process holoform. It is definitely not done, but we're reaching a fairly, no, it actually needs a little bit more. But anyways, that's a good way to gauge that wall thickness if you're having a really hard time blowing into it, or if you just want to make your very first holoform good without tempting to make it good but having no way to really gauge that wall thickness. Anyway, so if you are interested in these mini calipers, they're on Trent Bosch Tools website. It's brand new design, but I'm hoping that you'll enjoy playing with those because mini holoform is really a very fun project.